There are two people who never post anything on social media. Neither shares photos of their life, neither announces where they are. Neither tells the internet what they are doing, what they are thinking, or how they feel. From the outside, they look exactly the same, but psychologically, they may be completely different. One person may simply feel no need to turn their private life into something public. The other may be perfectly capable of wanting to share, but the moment they imagine other people watching, judging, comparing, or reacting, something inside them pulls back. The behavior is identical. The reason may be the opposite. And this is what makes people who never post so interesting. Because when we see someone's behavior, we usually assume we understand the reason behind it. But we don't. We see the silence, we don't see what produced it. And that difference matters much more than it first appears. Think about the first person. They might have nothing against social media. They may use it every day. They may watch videos, read comments, follow friends, look at photographs, and know exactly what is happening in other people's lives. They simply don't feel compelled to add their own life to the stream. They don't wake up thinking, I should let everyone know what I'm doing today. They don't experience every interesting moment as something that needs to become a photograph. And there is an important psychological distinction here. Sharing something and needing a reaction to it are not necessarily the same thing. Social media makes those two things very easy to confuse. You take a picture, you choose which version looks best, you decide what to write, you imagine who will see it. Then you post it. And almost immediately, the experience becomes social. Someone likes it, someone ignores it, someone comments, someone doesn't. And now your private experience has become something that exists in other people's minds. Research on online self-presentation has repeatedly examined this process. Posting photographs, for example, can involve selecting and editing an image with an imagined audience in mind. Social media also creates opportunities for comparison, because other people's carefully selected images and the reactions they receive are visible to us. But some people simply don't want that additional layer. They may think, I had a good day. Why does anyone else need to know? I like this photograph. Why does it need to be evaluated? This is part of my life. Why should it become content? That doesn't automatically mean they are introverted. It doesn't mean they have high self-esteem. And it certainly doesn't mean they are psychologically superior to people who post frequently. It may simply mean that their private experience feels complete without a public audience. But now imagine another person. They also never post. At first glance, there is no difference. But imagine what happens when they consider posting a photograph. Before they even press the button, their mind starts producing questions. What will people think? Does this picture make me look good? Will someone judge me? What if nobody reacts? What if someone I haven't spoken to in years sees this? What if people compare my life with theirs? Now, the absence of a post has a completely different meaning. The first person doesn't post because they don't particularly need the audience. The second may not post because the imagined audience has become too psychologically important. That distinction is fascinating, because from the outside, both people simply appear to be quiet online. But internally, one may experience freedom from the need to perform, the other may experience freedom from the fear of being evaluated. And those are not the same thing. This is one reason we should be careful whenever we try to explain people's behavior with a single personality label. Someone who never posts isn't necessarily private. They aren't necessarily shy. They aren't necessarily introverted. They aren't necessarily confident. And they aren't necessarily insecure. There isn't one psychology behind people who never post. There can be several. And sometimes the reason has less to do with personality than with the relationship a person has developed with social media itself. Because there is another possibility. They are simply tired. Social media can create a strange kind of psychological workload. You are not only looking at other people's lives, you are also deciding how much of your own life to reveal. You are managing photographs, managing impressions, managing different audiences, thinking about privacy, thinking about what you said yesterday, thinking about what someone might think about what you said tomorrow. Research on passive social media use has identified privacy concerns, impression management concerns, and social media fatigue as factors associated with people choosing to observe more and participate less. Other research has similarly connected privacy concerns and the time cost of social media with social media fatigue. And eventually, some people simply decide, I don't want to do this anymore. Not because they hate people, not because they have nothing to say, but because constantly managing a digital version of yourself has become exhausting. There is something else happening here too. The moment you publish something, you don't just share information. You create an opportunity for comparison. Your vacation can be compared with someone else's vacation. Your relationship can be compared with someone else's relationship. Your appearance can be compared with someone else's appearance. Your career can be compared with someone else's career. Even an ordinary Tuesday afternoon can suddenly exist inside a world where everyone else appears happier, more successful, more attractive, more interesting, or more accomplished. Research on social media has specifically examined the relationship between selective self-presentation and social comparison. More recent research has also found associations between social media exposure, upward social comparison, fear of missing out, and the desire for online self-presentation. So for some people, posting isn't simply, here is something that happened to me. It can quietly become, here is something about me that other people can evaluate. And once you notice that difference, social media starts to look a little different. Because perhaps the most interesting question isn't why some people post constantly, and it isn't why other people never post. The more interesting question is, what does a person believe will happen when other people see them? For one person, the answer might be nothing. They can think whatever they want. For another, they might misunderstand me. For another, they might judge me. For another, they might compare themselves with me. And for someone else, I simply don't care enough to show them. Same button, same screen, same behavior, different psychological world. And this brings us to something much bigger than social media. We make this mistake everywhere. We see a person who is quiet and we assume they are cold. We see someone who spends a lot of time alone and we assume they are lonely. We see someone who never asks for help and we assume they are strong. We see someone who talks constantly and we assume they are confident. We see someone who doesn't respond immediately and we assume they don't care. But behavior is not an explanation. It is only what we can see. The reason behind it is hidden. A person can be silent because they are comfortable or because they are afraid. A person can be alone because they enjoy solitude or because they feel rejected. A person can refuse attention because they don't need it or because attention makes them uncomfortable. And sometimes, we make the mistake of choosing the explanation that fits our own assumptions. We don't actually see the person, we see their behavior. Then we tell ourselves a story about what that behavior means. Maybe that is the deeper lesson hidden inside people who never post on social media. Their silence doesn't tell us nearly as much as we think it does. Two people can behave exactly the same way for completely different psychological reasons. And perhaps the real lesson isn't about people who never post. It's about how easily we mistake what we can see for what we cannot. Because in social media, we have learned to interpret people through photographs, comments, likes, silence, and visibility. But human psychology is always happening somewhere beneath the surface. And sometimes, the most important thing about a person's behavior is not what they are doing, it's the reason you cannot see.